Face front, true believers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And it's the 4th of July. And what do you know? It's also the 10th anniversary of Captain America, the first Avenger, not the Winter Soldier, not Civil War, the first Avenger, the one that really matters, in my humble opinion. I'm just going to say that right. I mean, all of them matter. All of them matter. But Dragon, just to get it out of the way right now, just kind of to dovetail right into my thesis statement for this thing. I rewatched this for the first time in God knows how long. I want to say over 5 years, probably like the first time in like 7 years. And hey, it's Atomic Beast. How you doing, Atomic Beast? And Dragon, this it really kind of blew me away how much this holds up on a rewatch and just really cements itself. And I'm sorry, Dragon. I gotta tell you, I don't mean I don't want to turn this into a Winter Soldier bash. I don't mean to sell it that way, but I find this interpretation of Captain America to be, in my opinion, just for my general tastes and aesthetics, so much more digestible, so much more in spirit with the character than the whole like kind of like like political thriller sort of like Tom Clancy espionage angle that the Russos kind of took the character in. I don't know. This movie just really, really exemplifies all the really humble qualities that I personally love in the character. And it's granted, I know that Winter Soldier is one of your all-time favorite films. We've had this discussion many times. I personally think it's a little overrated, maybe, but Dragon, I think just to land in the middle here with you and I think you and I can both agree. This film is, people like it. People like it a lot, but I think still it's significantly underrated. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess underrated. Yeah, I guess that would probably. I guess it kind of gets lost in the shuffle, but it keeps coming back though. So I don't know if underrated is necessarily the right word.
So, needless to say, it's my personal favorite in the trilogy, and I do have quite a lot of nostalgia for it. I really do. I also feel like this was the first MCU movie, Dragon, that really grabbed me. Because up until then, I feel like we'd had movies like Iron Man. Iron Man had a great 2/3, but then it really fell apart at the end. Incredible Hulk, kind of know how I feel about that. It's a solid action movie, but I don't know. It's not much more than that. Thor is Thor. It's a wacky movie. It's got the great it's got the great fish out of water stuff, but that's really the only thing that's really good. Dragon, I actually recently went back and rewatched Thor, and it's kind of weird just how undefined Loki is compared to how he is now. Like, he's just starting out, man. It's like Hiddleston, like I don't know. I'm just saying in terms of like performance and characterization. Hiddleston's still good in that movie, but man, it's like just knowing what we know now about Loki, it's kind of trippy to go back to it. So then obviously Iron Man 2 is a bit of a mess, and then we get to this, Dragon. So I really do think the MCU like didn't necessarily have the storybook start that many people kind of like have rose-tinted glasses over. I really do think it kind of like every movie had elements that worked, right? Every movie really had, like, I feel like casting was the main thing that really across the board worked. Maybe with the exception of Incredible Hulk, but cast it like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, obviously just right out of the park. Bam, bam, bam. Just that's just a triple threat right there. Obviously, they're kind of like they still were big pillars of the MCU. So this movie, though, Dragon, it really is the first one. You know me, I like a lot of MCU movies, and I really like the continuity, and I really like following it as a casual fan. I don't love a lot of MCU movies, but this, along with a handful of others, like the Guardians movie, Infinity War, couple other ones, they're the only ones that I really love. And I really think that it comes down to style, and I think Joe Johnston was such a great choice for this, as far as the director goes, Dragon. And like I said, I respect where the Russo brothers took the franchise, but it's just not really my personal cup of tea. It's not my Cap, if you will. Like I'm not as much of a fan of a world weary Cap as I am a fan of the kind of like starry eyed Cap, and I feel like that's what we get in this movie. All right, Dragon, I'm very sorry. I've just been rambling and rambling. This is your baby too. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, so everyone knows Tiki's dead to me. I just want to get that out of the way.
Also, we got Ramel Malone in the comics and Tom Beast. So, guys, this is a bit of a flashback here. Both of y'all are old school channel commenters, so I appreciate it. Appreciate you both being here and spending your holiday with us. You don't have to do that, and you are. So I genuinely really appreciate that. All right, guys. Dragon, go ahead.
Right. Yes, I mean, look, obviously.
So, Dragon, would it be fair to say you're not with me till the end of the line?
Well, after you bash Winter Soldier like that, I'm kidding. You didn't bash Winter Soldier. Look, they're excellent movies. Let's make no mistake. I mean, obviously, I prefer Winter Soldier a lot more, but that's how it is. And, but regardless, so circling back to this movie, first Avenger. So it's not a well kept secret. The MCU made me a Captain America fan. Mm-hmm. Unequivocally, I was for me Captain America historically before the MCU was, it was like Captain America. It's kind of like I liked him in the apple pie sense, and the fact that he's the guy who says the catchphrase and sometimes teams up with Spider-Man. He's the guy at the Shield. We like him collectively, but do we really know anything about Cap? And then these movies changed all that. It didn't truly hit me until Avengers, and then big time with Winter Soldier. With Captain America: Winter Soldier. When I was kind of like head over heels for the character, and just kind of creeping in on me with Avengers of like, yeah, man, I noticed this Captain America stuff's really sticking out to me in the movie, and I'm just enamored with him utterly in Winter Soldier. At the time, this was the last one till Avengers. That's kind of the way I saw it. I was like, okay, we're getting to Avengers, and we got to get through Cap first. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be good, but I'm not exactly.
It was the perfect lead into the Avengers, with the notable exception that I vividly remember that post-credits trailer being pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, which essentially was a trailer for the Avengers. So, yeah.
All I remember about that post-credits trailer is like, wait, are they hanging out in like some lab the whole movie? Like, what is this setting? Anyways,
so that's my point. I mean, I was like on the Avengers train, and I knew, we got to hit Captain America along the way. And again, I was looking at more in just the sense of, okay, well, we're going to do the Captain America movie, then we're going to get to the Avengers, where he does the thing I know him for, which he didn't do until Endgame. So technically. But with the movie itself, though, this film is not only the heart and soul of the character of Captain America, but as well as the heart and soul of the MCU along with Iron Man. These characters in these first installments in their franchise, they define what the MCU became and what it is at its core, and all the way to the end. It's so interesting when you look back on the arc of the Captain America franchise. The way I like to look at it now we've kind of gotten to the end of the story, is the three movies, just in the franchise alone, you have skinny Steve Rogers. That's what the first movie is at its core. It's all about skinny Steve Rogers. To Winter Soldier, which I really love, which is about kind of Captain America's legacy, so to speak, and kind of like, was everything you did worth it necessarily? And like, look at the state of the world now, with the Hydra, the secret Hydra shield of it all. Mm-hmm. And then you have Captain America Civil War, which is essentially Steve Rogers outgrowing the Captain America persona, which brings us to kind of like the whole nomad thing in Infinity War. So that's a really solid arc that we start with the Steve Rogers and we end with the Steve Rogers.
No, I mean, I definitely agree. I do think that Captain America is definitely the most consistent trilogy in the MCU, at least until Guardians 3 comes out, for sure. I agree with you there.
Yes, and that's nice. What's so great about this movie is that it's an earnest and old school throwback. That's like the best thing about the movie. Absolutely. It feels unequivocally like a movie serial, but with like a proper budget and just kind of like kind of proper actors and budgets versus like we just want to see a guy in a costume do stuff.
Greg, do you remember Sky Captain in The World of Tomorrow by any chance?
Not well.
That was a movie that was very much just kind of like throwing up just the whole like, hey, 1940s movie serial aesthetic, and it was kind of just like a George Lucas blue screen fever dream, and it was kind of like the Zack Snyder Sin City style, but just not done as well. And this movie is like that, except it actually has a lot of heart and pathos to go along with it. So, let me know in the comments if you guys remember Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Not many people do.
See, at a point they just cashed in on the whole serial hero idea, and some of them became
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
amorphous. And like, okay, so it's a guy in a leather suit doing stuff.
That's exactly what Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow is.
Yeah. So that's what
I'm pretty sure Jude Law was Sky Captain, if I'm remembering right.
So
All right.
that's
Anyways,
what I'm saying.
Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. It feels like absolutely like a serial. You know, you have Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, it's very Raiders and Rocketeer-esque, which is very appropriate given who they got to direct this. You know, it's an old Hollywood adventure movie with a pure heart, with this very endearing and moral lead in Steve Rogers. It's a movie with a bit of everything for everyone. And just a little side note, a little personal side note. This is my grandmother still to this day. This is her favorite MCU film. She adores because she is a huge. Yes, of course she and I share a love of Captain America and the MCU, and this she was already a huge fan of this, and then of course Avengers rolls around, starting to get it. Like, oh my god, I absolutely get it now. Yes, and it's then Winter Soldier. I'm as head over heels as she was for this movie, so that's kind of how that worked.
All right, so really quick, a couple comments here. Tom D says first time I've been introduced to World War II was Justice League and Hey Arnold. Dragon, I can't speak to the Blackhawks. Maybe you can, but we definitely did a. Dragon, was it a Veterans Day or Memorial Day?
Well, it was veteran. Oh, here's the thing. It was a Veterans Day episode of Hey Arnold, so I'm assuming we did on Veterans Day.
I'm assuming we would do it on Veterans Day. I mean, that'd be kind
I'm
of
assuming we're not
do it on Memorial Day if it's right in the title.
I'm assuming we're not chumps, but then again, you pitched some doozies in the past, so I don't know.
So yeah, we did do a recap podcast on the Veterans Day episode of Hey Arnold.
And as Tom Beast points out, let's not forget Phil poisoned Nazis with sham. Yes, that did happen. The Veterans Day episode was awesome. But yeah, so what he's referring to with Justice League, by the way, is the whole a Savage Time 3-parter at the end of the first season of the Justice League animated series. They went back into World War II, so that was kind of like the prototype for why Butch Lukic wanted to do Justice Society World War II. We talked about recently.
Gotcha.
Which featured I'm pretty sure, it featured the Blackhawks in it too. That's why. Anyway.
All right, and then Ramel Malone says, "How did you guys feel about Chris Evans being cast?" Dragon, I'll throw this to you first.
Yeah, this was kind of crazy at the time. Well, way back when, of course, when Evans was cast, and it's so weird how things have turned out now, years later, with all sorts of double casting and everything. But at the time, I looked at it in very simple terms. I liked Chris Evans. Pitching as Captain America, I looked at a very stupid, narrow thing of like, I wasn't like saying, no, we should not do it, but I was thinking of like in terms of like trying to wrap my mind around the sense of, well, Johnny, like the weird thing is that Johnny Storm in the comics has blonde hair, which would make me think, hey, that's, he'd be tailor made for both roles. But again, he said, what was just Chris Evans, with like the shaved down, kind of like traditional brown.
I wasn't thinking about the blonde hair thing. I was more thinking like, wait a minute, Johnny Blaze is a hot shot. Captain America is not a hot shot.
Johnny Storm, Tiki.
Oh, did I say Johnny Blaze? Oh, Jesus Christ!
So that was my point. I looked at in simple terms, like just
I just want to emphasize like the fact that it's funny that the Human Torch's last name is Storm, and then there's another Johnny in the Marvel universe who has a last name of Blaze, but he's not the Human Torch.
But his head's on fire, so it fits.
Yeah, that's true. That's
okay, so my point is, I looked at it in the simplistic terms of, wait a minute, Chris Evans, and I know this from that Fantastic Four movie that came out. Unlike the comics, he does not have blonde hair. I don't see him as blonde-haired Captain America. Before I just realized, oh, wait a minute. Actors can just change their hair color. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, it was wait a minute. An actor doesn't have to just do one type of performance.
Yeah, it was also just the simplicity of like, maybe it's not a big deal if Cap doesn't have blonde hair, which I mean, the Marvel Universe is kind of like, no, he needs that blonde hair, hence the whole blonde hair, blue eyes thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I was open to it, but just I wasn't like instantly sold like Downey. Honestly, I went to Downey Jr. blind too. I knew very little about Downey Jr. when Iron Man came around, so it was like just kind of I've seen him, but I never really
Oh,
put a
you
name
see,
to the
I
face.
actually knew quite a bit about Downey Jr. by the time Iron Man came around because I had already seen like stuff like Zodiac and I'm trying to remember other stuff from
Well,
Downey.
let me put it this way. I'll give you an obscure. I knew him from bit parts in movies, but I never put a name to the face. Where I seen him in Back to
Right,
School
right, that makes sense.
and
Yeah,
Weird Science and like here's a bad
Zodiac was definitely the big one that I knew him from
like
pre Iron Man.
the most recent thing I saw him it was the Shaggy Dog where he played the bad guy.
Uh huh. Oh
Yeah,
God, he played the bad guy in the Shaggy
yeah,
Dog.
yeah. He was the bad guy on trial. Yeah,
Okay, now I kind of want to watch the Shaggy Dog.
yeah, and it's crazy
I've
too what
never
he did in
actually
that
seen
movie.
it.
Anyway, so but yeah, so Evans, of course, he more than delivered. I mean, big time. I adore
Can
him
you
for
imagine
Seven.
Tim Allen in the MCU?
Don't tease me like that.
I know. I'm just saying. I could totally imagine it.
All
All
right.
right. Anyway, so I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Just so I already did my
Okay.
opening.
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
thought so. Yeah.
All right. So,
So,
Dragon, get us some background here, buddy.
all right. Yeah, the background's pretty direct here. A Captain America film. Long story short, a Captain America film has been in the works since '97 to rebound from the very notable failure that was the 1990 Captain
Oh,
America film.
Dragon, did you ever see that as a kid?
Uh, regrettably, yes.
Yeah, regrettably for me as well. Yes, I remember renting it from a video store, being really excited, and then just being like, "What is this? This is not good at all. This
Which
is oh
again, that
God."
movie definitely was kind of filling me with the whole like, I'm not exactly thrilled to get to the
Right,
Captain
right,
America
exactly.
film
Yeah.
because I mean I've seen it before. I'm sure it's going to be better than that, but that's what I'm saying. More like it's the wait until Avengers before you realize, oh my god, this. I and walked this also kind of get that in there. When I walked out of the movie, I was happy with it. Mind you, I was like, man, this was a good movie. That third act was a little wonky, but it was a good movie. That's pretty much at the time. So back to the background. So again, so they've been working on trying to rebound from the Captain America film in the 1990, along with the Fantastic Four movie, was pretty much like the last straw of like, okay, we have these Marvel movies that came out that did not impress us. We're going to try and bolster them up with the next round once we kind of hopefully get like an MCU built. You
Dragon,
get
I
an MCU.
actually like one of these days. I really do think we should do a retrospective or like a theme month or something on the non Disney, like non MCU Marvel movies of the 2000s, like that weird string of ones that were just all failures.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
That was just
so
a weird era, like post Spider-Man 2, pre MCU. That was a wild era. That was like the Wild West for comic book movies. Go
it
ahead,
was.
Dragon. I'm sorry.
All right, so in the formation of the grand plan, the sacred MCU Phase One plan, if you will, the so originally Captain America was supposed to be the first up, hence the first Avenger title. I know the first Avenger title wasn't exactly there; it was like it was something they kind of reversed it at a time. They kind of went through the name a couple times. Originally, it was Captain America to First Avenger, Captain America, or something like that. So
Originally, it
originally,
was called Captain America Serpent Society.
cute.
Sorry.
Anyway, so that's what I'm saying. So Cap was supposed to lead things off, but what happened, something that connects to Breaking Bad a little bit, the Captain America film suffered from the infamous 2007 to 2008 writers' strike, which delayed it.
Mm.
So that's what kind of delayed that plan of like, okay,
Is that kind of part of the reason why it's so montage heavy?
no, not really. That doesn't have anything to do with that necessarily.
Okay.
No. So anyway,
I
so
mean,
the
it would
point.
make sense if it did, but
Well, not really though, because they would have shot all that anyway. But because
yeah,
we're talking about the writing phase, Tiki. Anyway, so
all right, fair enough, fair enough.
so working on them filming, so it gets delayed. So they start with Iron Man first. So Kevin Feige, he wanted Joe Johnston to direct this because he absolutely wanted to model after something like The Rocketeer and October Sky, and also really adored his work in those things, especially his design work on Star Wars, which Feige loves him some Star Wars, so that was definitely the feather in the cap for old Joe.
It
Old
blows
Joe
my
Johnston.
mind that Feige loves Star Wars, and yet like Feige is the master of planning out a cinematic universe, and yet what
Yep.
the hell happened with Disney Star Wars? Anyways,
Well, he was
that's a
taken.
whole other conversation.
He already had a dance partner. He was taken.
Yeah, I know. Anyways,
So okay, here's something trippy. So again, they're making the movie. We got Joe Johnston, of course, great director. Made his bones really on Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and they just kind of went up for him. Let's see.
yeah,
So
Joe Johnston, man, he really is a director that we could do a theme month on. He's low key got a great style to him.
that he is, and also for the kids out there, designed the Iron Giant, designed the eventual way the Iron Giant looked. That's all
Okay,
thanks
you
to
know
Joe
what else he
Johnston.
did recently that blew my mind because it's such a bad movie and it doesn't feel like one of his movies at all?
What?
That weird Nutcracker movie from a few years ago.
Oh yeah, Nutcracker in the Four Realms or something, right?
Yeah. Man, that does not feel like a Joe Johnston movie at all. Anyways.
All right, let's see. Okay, so there's when they're casting Captain America, there's kind of this weird, just looking back on it 10 years later, there's a weird Nostradamus effect in the audition process. All these guys essentially end up in Captain America-esque roles or related MCU roles.
Oh
Okay,
really?
so we have Wyatt Russell, who he auditioned for the role of Steve Rogers, and he ends
I
up
know
being
Sebastian Stan, of course, auditioned for Captain America.
well, yeah, and of course the irony there being, Bucky eventually kind of stepping into the role of Captain America just
Mhm.
in the comics. But anyway, so
But yeah, Wyatt Russell, of course, yeah.
Wyatt Russell, of course, the whole John Walker affair and Falcon Winter
Johnny
Soldier.
Walker.
Sure. You have Jensen Ackles, of course, from Supernatural fame, who now, very ironically, is going to play the parody of Captain America and the Boys with Soldier Boy.
Yeah.
Then you have Wilson Bethel, who ends up on Daredevil, but again,
Mhm.
kind of like you can kind of see the resemblance.
But
Okay, I can see what
all
they
of
were.
these guys I could totally buy as Captain America, honestly.
And last related one, before I tell you who was basically slated to get the role before Chris Evans kind of strolled on by, you had Chad Michael Murray, who ends up on Agent Carter as Jack Thompson.
Ah, nice,
So
yeah.
John Krasinski was the choice. So they had John Krasinski all lock, stock, and barrel. Like he was our
Krasinski
guy.
is still my choice for Mr. Fantastic, man.
Hey, I'll support it. I mean, I want Michael Sheen, but I know that's not going to happen. So I'll take John Krasinski.
I mean, then again, when I was thinking about it, like Tim Allen, if they want an older Mr. Fantastic, they're going kind of like the legacy route. Man, they would probably
anyway,
never cast Tim Allen nowadays, but
right. I mean, I think Romello is a little closer to the ball here. I mean, I don't think they go for it, but I could see Tim Allen's Uncle Ben for sure. I don't know if they go with
oh,
they
I
give him the whole.
could see Tim Allen as Uncle Ben. That's a
I think I
good
could
call.
I could see him as Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben. I just wonder if the whole age thing with Marissa Tomei would work out. But I mean, I could buy it. I guess. I mean, I'd go for it. I'd like it.
Well, Dragon, with the age thing, it's like it got they can look any age they want him to. Let's be honest.
At this stage in the MCU, you're right
Let's
about
be
that. They only
honest.
need him for a small part anyway. So yeah, let's put Tim Allen as Uncle Ben. Why not? I want Hank Azaria has always been my Uncle Ben pick though.
Oh, that's not a bad one. That's a really good one.
He's always because I think he's like the consummate New Yorker you'd want.
Yeah, it's like the authentic New Yorker Uncle Ben. Yeah,
yes, that's always been my
anyways.
pick. But no, Romel, that's a good pitch though. Tim Allen as Uncle Ben. That's not bad. Anyway, so again, John Krasinski was the choice in terms of the audition process, but they really wanted Chris Evans. So when he entered the picture, and obviously there's a little bit of a not an outcry, but there was always maybe a little air of skepticism. Like, I don't know, we've had him in the universe, but we kind of had him in a Marvel movie before. We're trying to divorce ourselves from that. Do we want Evans? But no, Johnston crew, they really wanted Evans, and Evans turned it down a couple times. But it took apparently it took Robert Downey Jr. to talk him into it. How fitting! Iron Man, Cap still helping each other out.
I'm sorry, I got to stop the conversation for 1 sec. Atomic Beast, Jurassic Park 3 is very underrated, and I like it a lot, and I think it's easily my favorite of the Jurassic sequels. And we actually just did a 10th anniversary retrospective on that, so go check it out if you want my reasoning why. Anyways.
Right. Let's see,
sorry, I just got to jump in and defend Jurassic Park 3. That's one of my movies that I always got to defend.
Well, let's be clear. His direction of that movie was good. Just the writing was
that's what I'm saying.
The writing was not great, but his direction.
No, the writing's not great, but the important thing about a Jurassic movie is the set pieces for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Johnson. Anyways, let's not get too sidetracked here. So, point being, so Robert Downey Jr. talked him into like Chris Evans' thing is he was worried that he was gonna that he's kind of a private person. He didn't want to fame to overtake him and everything like it did with Downey Jr. And then Danny Jr. kind of talked him into the whole like kind of blank. It's kind of like you're writing your own ticket for offers. And as you see with Chris Evans' career, he basically was able to do anything he wanted, but he only wanted to do indie movies, with the exception of like a Knives Out here and there, you know. So it worked out for him. Okay, big thing we got to hit, just so we don't have to worry about it later. Lola, we got to talk some Lola. So Lola is Lola's the visual effects company that famously does the de-aging effects.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Coulson's car.
No, I mean,
like when you said Lola, that's immediately what came to mind.
I'm pretty sure that is a nod to Lola, though. I can't prove that. Okay. I can't prove that. I'd like to think so, because it's a very specific name. So the effects company, they got their big break. Again, it's a Captain America reference for Coulson, though, if they did go with Lola with the whole
yeah.
So this is where Lola got its start. The whole de-aging effects started here, because Lola is a visual effects company that does cosmetic enhancement effects. Mm-hmm. So that's how we get skinny Steve Rogers. So essentially,
my own personal headcanon, by the way, is that Coulson was just a Kinks fan.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, so the way they do this is they shoot Chris Evans just in the scene. So again, he's all buffed out, but they shoot Chris Evans in the scene. They kind of work with eye lines, so they make him look short, so the people are looking down. So they put more so they put them on. Everyone else in those scenes are on Apple boxes, like Sebastian Stan and everyone. They're on Apple boxes. Then they bring in the double to shoot the scene again, which is Leander Dini, spelled differently, not that Dini, Leander Dini. And so it takes like multiple takes, like 3 to 5 takes per scene, because you got to shoot it at least twice with those guys, and then one with like the lighting ball, so they can match it together. And then sometimes if ipso facto, if something else happens, and they kind of mix all those results together and kind of trim the actors down with CG and kind of do their little Lola magic, blend them together, and Bob's your uncle, skinny Steve Rogers, seamless.
So, Dragon, I got to admit, this holds up a lot better than I thought it would. I still think it's pretty seamless.
I know, right?
Ironically enough, that and the twin effect from The Social Network, those two effects they're very similar and from around the same time period. And I honestly think they both really hold up. Anyways.
So of course, we get Alan Silvestri doing the score. We got some Rick Heinrich sets. We get a
wonderful Alan Menken song.
Yep, we're shooting in Pinewood predominantly. Like, we're in London pretty much in Pinewood for all this, so it has like the old school movie vibe. And they have, when they shoot the shield, they have 4 different shields made up. You got a rubber, you got a metal one, you got a magnetic one, you got a CG one for like the throws. Right, and lastly, this is the last of the pre-Disney MCU films in Phase 1 with Paramount.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's really trippy how it like switched from Paramount to Disney.
And I like the first Avenger kind of godfathers Disney, and if you think of it, because we have Menken, where they use like the Disney, like the music. I don't know if they necessarily use the Disney Music Hall, but they use there's like a Disney Records. I'm thinking of Disney Records at the end of the credits. That's what
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Disney's kind of slowly but surely grandfathered in as we go full blown with the Avengers.
And then 10 years later, Paramount's just like, screw you, Disney. We're literally going to rip off the name of your streaming service.
You stole the Marvel Universe from us. You son. Anyway.
Right. Oh, God. I mean, like, really, what is the biggest franchise that Paramount has right now? Like Transformers, maybe?
Well, I mean, I would say Star Trek, but that's not going well for them. So,
God. Anyways.
All right. So let's get down to it. We're going to kind of break down the acts and pretty simply as they go, just kind of talk highlights.
I think A Quiet Place might be a Paramount movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right about that, but go ahead.
Okay. Good for you. All right, so we're gonna break down the acts here. Kind of Act 1, pretty much, kind of the origin of Captain America is kind of the cutting off point. So let's start there. So let's talk Johann Schmidt. Let's talk kind of a very dark man faced Johann Schmidt. The fake face on top of the other fake face.
Yeah, go for it.
So Hugo Weaving, great in the role. He's as the failed super soldier.
I really feel like people don't give, like, I understand that he could be in the movie more, but I do think what he has is good, and I think he's got a good presence, and they build him up. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird. The Hugo Weaving of it all is the fact that, he's kind of indifferent towards the movie, and that
Uh-huh.
it wasn't coming out of it like really well. That's why he didn't come back, but he did a really good job in the movie. And basically, the makeup kind of scared him off because the Red Skull makeup later on, that's like 3.5 hours of makeup.
Dragon, it looks like a really extensive makeup job. I remember
And
when I first saw it.
even in the scenes without the Red Skull, Tiki, they're doing that makeup thing to do like the Darkman effect,
Oh
where it
yeah,
has to look like
I'm
there's
sure,
that.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I keep
Uh-huh.
pulling the Darkman reference because it's amazing. It looks like a fake face, and I love it.
It almost kind of got a Judge Doom look almost.
I know, right? That exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just this role of kind of the failed super soldier with a god complex, chasing power to compensate for the visual reminder of his failure, which is his true red face. He's red of embarrassment. Something really cool. I want to hit those with the cosmic cube of it all too, because of course we introduced the well, I mean, we introduced it in the tail end of Thor, but we really because Cosmic Cube's always been introduced in Captain America comics, hence the reason
Uh-huh.
it's in here. So this is why like the Red Skull's whole shtick is that he found the Cosmic Cube, which kind of like is always like his signature weapon that gave him the edge over Captain America. So the connection to Thor with the Tesseract, with the way we find it at the top of the movie, like we have the Tree of the World carving, with the whole 9 realms and everything thread through the tree. It's kind of a cool way of like starting to tie together the universe. Like we tie together all 4 of our movies in this movie, if you think about it, because we have like the Hulk thing with the super soldier serum. We have the Thor gives us the Tesseract and Howard Stark. It's all 4 movies.
I mean, sure. I think it's a little generous with the Hulk thing. I feel like the Hulk is by far the least, the less, the least contribution to the overall thing. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
No, I mean, look, you're right. I'm just saying, literally, when he has the serum, we mimic the shots from the Incredible Hulk
Sure,
movie,
sure.
and then obviously we have a super soldier in the Incredible Hulk, so there's a little bit of a correlation.
Yeah, yeah. No, in the early days, I do like how of course, with the Infinity Stones, I mean, obviously, like, we all know exactly what they are now, but in the early days, they were just kind of like these weird MacGuffins.
Yeah, we had no idea the Tesseract was going to
Yeah,
be an
no.
Infinity
Oh,
Stone. We just
God, the
thought it was again. It
Tesseract,
was just
yeah.
like we gave the Cosmic Cube a fancy name. That's all it was. Like we couldn't call
Right,
it a
right.
Cosmic Cube, so we had to call it. Well, what's the shape terminology? Well, it's a Tesseract, I guess. You know, and
Yeah,
yeah,
so
also
it's really cool to, like, look back on these, on these early movies, knowing how big of an impact the Infinity Stones would ultimately have on the whole franchise.
very crazy. Yeah, and also I love the foreshadows at the top top here of the Red Skull. We have like the blood on the Hydra pin, which looks like a red skull, and we
That's the
have the
kind of, like, super on the nose, like, Matthew Buck style symbolism that I really like Joe Johnston for. Like, that is part of his style.
yeah. Also, I love the guy who basically warns like the guy from Norway, basically saying, "You're a fool. You'll burn for the you think you can't control that power. You will burn. I already have." So that's
And
obviously
of
it's.
course, I love the illusion, basically, kind of like throwing shade at Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's
Mhm.
like, and Hitler searches for trinkets in the desert.
Yeah, and again, it's a lot of love to again. Raiders has always been a send up of cereal, so it makes sense
Mhm.
if Captain America is going to be kind of in
Yeah,
that
I
vein, it would.
almost feel like Raiders could be taking place in this same timeline.
I mean, they kind of acknowledge Hitler digging for trinkets. I mean, why
Right,
not?
right, exactly,
you
exactly,
know,
yeah.
maybe India exists. Who knows?
Oh God, could you imagine Indy just popping up in an MCU movie?
I mean, it's Disney owned now, right? So anyway, so let's see. So the idea is so we've given Schmidt the edge with the Tesseract, which basically is the it's giving him the edge versus the United States, which is going to combat it with the super soldier serum, which is their big thing. And I love that it's such a great concept with Hydra, the idea of the rogue Nazi science division, which is an offshoot of Hitler and his love of the occult. And that's basically the idea that becomes small potatoes to the Red Skull, because basically they're too afraid just to say Nazis are the bad guy in this movie. For some reason, we have to just make Hydra an offshoot, but it's still effective.
Yeah, I don't really mind because like we got a lot of mileage out of Hydra going forward.
That's what I'm
So
saying. As long as he still punches out Hitler, it's fine. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so long as we
exactly.
do that, then yeah, that's fine. We acknowledge the Nazis are there. We can just say it's Hydra instead. If not, it would have been a nightmare. But it's
And of
yeah.
course, we get a very pivotal Nazi-related question that we're
Mm,
about to get to shortly.
yes. Okay, so let's talk about our star of the piece. Let's talk. No, I'm not talking about Captain America yet. I'm talking skinny Steve Rogers. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, I still think Skinny Steve is probably some of my favorite characterization work on the character ever in the MCU. It's like Dragon to me, it's just like it's such a wonderful like first note. Like I feel like this and Iron Man really mirror each other in a lot of ways because like like with Iron Man, it's like you got like the ACDC music and the bravado and the rapid fire jokes. And with this, it's like you just get the earnestness, man, just the heart on sleeve earnestness. And that's what really carries it through. And I don't know, man. I love a lot of stuff about this first act, and I love the characterization here.
I would agree. Honestly, the first act. I mean, unfortunately, Star Spangled Man does not really fit into Act One, but Act One is so ridiculously solid. It's probably the best act of the movie.
It is. It is. I won't disagree with you there. It definitely is the best act of the movie.
Much as I adore Star Spangled Man, which we will get to. But that's the thing, though. So Skinny Steve. So Steve Rogers, we established right from the beginning, he comes from good stock. When he's going to the basically to be recruited, the recruitment center. We mentioned that his parents died, assumedly in World War One. Mustard gas and tuberculosis.
Uh-huh.
Like again, being there. Steve Rogers comes from people who wanted to be in service in times of
Yeah, yeah.
crisis. Comes from heroic stock. It's the legacy of being of service to a noble cause, and that they won't take him, and that's devastating to him. And I love that as the character. This guy just wants to be of service, even though very clearly he can't be, but he wants to be. What he lacks in strength, he makes up for tenfold in character and determination, which is a great trait. And we, of course, one of the big scenes, the bully in the alleyway, who's making light of the soldiers and their sacrifice on the newsreel. Put on the cartoon.
Dragon, I can't tell you how much it meant to people of my dad's generation that grew up with Captain America, the comic book character, to see the garbage can lid
Yeah,
on screen.
I love
That
the arc.
like that is almost like the money shot of the movie in its own right because that is such a universal thing for folks that grew up during that time period.
Yep, every time you grab that trash can lid, you have like a
Yeah,
free shield.
yeah. So I mean that's got to be one of my dad's like favorite moments in all of the MCU is that right there.
It's Steve going up against the bully, and we get the iconic line, "I can do this all day."
Oh God, and they really get a lot of mileage out of that line too.
That
It's
they
really
do. That they
crazy how
do.
this movie plants so many. Like, it's a good standalone movie, but it also plants a ton of flags for future MCU stuff.
Wonderfully so. And we go to the a really great set piece of the 40s. We go to the 1943 World's Fair.
This is maybe one of my favorite MCU set pieces ever. Greg, I want this in a theme park so bad. I would just take this as a Tomorrowland overhaul, honestly.
It is great, and especially just knowing in the MCU we get like the Stark Expo, which is based on this, so it's kind of a great kind of legacy to it. Yeah, I mean, I love just they kind of talk about because Bucky, the Steve and Bucky dynamic really comes into play, kind of getting us because Bucky has a date at the World's Fair, which he brings Steve along for, so it very much kind of ties into this. So Steve and Bucky, obviously one of the most important dynamics in the MCU, one of the most important friendships in that universe. Especially to me, with the whole Winter Soldier of it all. But it's just when you look at him with the very first time you watch, it's such a clever reversal of Bucky as the kid's sidekick in the comics, and we just added the visual arc to so we've made Steve the kid's sidekick in stature.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's ultimately going to be this arc of Steve becoming his friend. So it's really beautiful. Like, he becomes Bucky through this process, and in turn inspires Bucky, which is really, really sweet. And, basically what we hit with their friendship is kind of hit with our Act 1 settings. Like, we hit the New York and kind of Brooklyn setting so well. Like, it feels like you can look at this movie, it feels like you can see the Jack Kirby and Steve Rogers. Like, the short Jewish guy from New York who, like,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This feels so much like authentic, like not MCU, but like authentic Marvel. You know,
Kirby,
just like classic Marvel comics.
Yeah, I read this book about Jack Kirby recently, and Kirby liked to put a little of himself in all of his characters, and there's a gob of Jack Kirby
Oh, I'm sure.
in the Steve Rogers character, with again like the fact like people would call up after they did Captain America, and like there'd be like Nazi affiliated people and like saying like, we're gonna come down there, and he says, come down here, I'll meet you downstairs. Like, he hated bullies, man. It was anyway,
yeah.
So again, we have like Bucky always looking out for Steve, and we have like the double date to like at the I love the Modern Marvels exhibit.
Yes.
Also, I've told you this before, but do you remember on the real? Did you see the Human Torch Easter egg?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's really cool. So like it's right dead center. It's like in the glass case, the synthetic man. And the synthetic man is dressed in all red. So that's the Human Torch from the old school Captain America days, where it's Cap, the Invaders. It's Cap, Submariner,
and the Human Torch goes back that far.
Oh, yeah, remember the Human Torch was an android, and they named like Dr. Phineas. I think it's Dr. Phineas Morton. It's Dr. Phineas something or other, and that's the name on top of the case. So that's like the reference to the android Human Torch, which worked with Cap during the wartime comics. But I don't know if they couldn't get the rights, so they just couldn't fit in the Submariner, so they didn't do him. But at least they got, and the irony being we have the Human Torch playing Captain America. It's really cute.
Sure.
All right, so we have Howard Stark's introduction, which is hilarious with the repulsor prototype for the flying car, which Coulson eventually gets, which is awesome.
Yeah, Dragon. I'm sorry. The name of this actor's on the tip of my tongue.
Dominic Cooper, the one who plays.
There we go, Dominic. I knew it was something Cooper.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just such a perfect Howard Stark, man.
The casting of Howard Stark in the MCU has always been spot on, because you have John Slattery as the older Howard Stark.
John Slattery is like the Walt Disney-esque version of Howard Stark. And then this guy is like the Howard Hughes-esque Howard Stark.
Exactly. And I love that. It's awesome we were able to get away with that, and I love it. So, here's the thing. When I rewatched this movie, again, having gone through like the 10-year journey with the Captain America character, it really gets me in the feels when there's certain subtle references outside of the whole I can do this all day that really got me. Like, for example, when Steve goes to be recruited, Bucky goes off to dance with the girls, and he says to Steve, don't do anything stupid until I get back. How can I do that? You're taking all the stupid with you. And that's the last thing they say to each other in Endgame.
Yeah.
It just got me in the feels, got me in the solar plexus.
Also, in addition to that, another layer to that scene is that it kind of foreshadows the dance at the end of the movie, right?
Yep, that too. That's what I'm saying.
It all comes down to dancing with Steve Rogers, man.
It does. It's all he wants. Let the poor lad put on his dancing shoes. Come on. All right. So let's speaking of dance, let's talk Peggy Carter. Let's talk about the Camp Leahy kind of stuff. Let's talk about when he actually gets recruited. We'll talk about how momentarily, but he gets recruited and goes to Camp Leahy for boot camp, and he meets the love of his life.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're not going to jump to Tommy Lee Jones just yet.
I mean, we can like loop him in now and again, but by all means, like I just figured we start with Peggy Carter and then work in like stuff like that.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else needs to be said about Peggy Carter that we haven't already said. She's
in 2 seasons, yeah.
Like honestly, watching this movie again just made me wish that there was more Agent Carter.
Yeah, I love this. I love how she, Howard Stark, and Erskine are both kind of like they're the oddballs. Like they're the people who are probably bullied in their respective communities.
Right.
Like Steve Rogers. And I love that when Steve Rogers comes into the fold, they all click. They're all at their best. They all become better and kind of like effective in stopping the war once Steve Rogers kind of enters all 3 of their lives and kind of changes all of them for the better, gives them all kind of what they've been looking for in a sense. And to the Peg Carter, again, I love her chemistry with Steve Rogers. It's really charming. It's just the charming earnestness of it all. It's
like I love that flag scene, man.
I know the flag scene is brilliant because one, it shows
scene is awesome. Like I know that the grenade scene is more pivotal from a character development point of view, and we'll get there. The grenade scene is amazing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think the flag scene is like a great kind of like that's the lighthearted like mirror image of the grenade scene, I think.
It's a clever thing to show that Steve Rogers, what he does, what he lacks in strength, even as skinny Steve Rogers, he makes up for that. He thinks differently than other
Uh-huh.
soldiers because of his experience, and also it adds like kind of like a boyhood, almost like a schoolgirl crush that Peggy Carr is developing on Steve Rogers. Like, oh, he's gonna ride with me. It's cute.
No one's gotten that flag in 17 years. I just love how mean that drill sergeant is.
Yeah, Sergeant Duffy, who they brought back for that brief cameo in Winter Soldier. He was in that little flashback scene where we saw Skinny Steve Rogers fall in.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Oh God.
He's kind of like a sawed off R. Lee Ermey. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right. So that's the thing. So we established that the important thing that we established with that whole relationship, real quick, is that she liked Skinny Steve before Cap because it would have been really shallow if she's. I like him because he's a beefcake. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like honestly, I kind of feel like him being a beefcake was almost maybe a little bit of a turnoff for her.
I mean, I love that. Like, I don't know if it's just the audience experience is viewing because again, I don't. It's so weird because even though he looks so radically different, I still see skinny Steve Rogers, which I think is what she sees as well. You know, because you're
For sure,
enamored with the guy. You know, you think that's like When I went into the movie based on the trailer, like I wonder how that skinny effect's going to hold up, and again, it just held up so kind of. It was not an issue at all. You know.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, I think you're absolutely right, though. I think you hit the nail on the head where it's like, the end of the day, the effect's so good that you barely, like, once we do get the buff Steve Rogers, it's like, it barely even clicks in your mind that it's a change because the characterization is so on point.
Yeah. So, unless you want to talk about Colonel Phillips a little bit, I was going to bring up the grenade scene.
Well, I mean, I feel like we should kind of build up Colonel Phillips because he's what leads to the grenade scene.
Yeah, well, I've definitely got to loop him in there a little bit. Yeah, so
yeah. So Tommy Lee Jones, man, I would love to see him in a flashback or something. I would love to see this character again. He is one of my favorite like one-off MCU characters who's only ever appeared in one movie. I love him so much.
Now I'll remind the kids out there, Colonel Phillips was one of the 3 founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there was always a built-in like we could bring him back if we could ever get Tommy Lee Jones to say yes.
Like I really do think it's one of my all-time favorite Tommy Lee Jones performances. It's quintessential Tommy Lee Jones.
I love that we were able to get had we seen Steve Rogers' parents, Tom Hanks would have played his father. He would have. But I love that we have we need an actor who represents Americana. In this case, it was Tommy Lee Jones. So I love that we have it's like a prerequisite. Okay, so we need we need the Americana.
yeah. So, of course, Dragon, we have the setup with the grenade scene of like he's arguing for physical strength. Got Stanley Tucci over here arguing for the heart, and then what happens?
Okay, so grenade scene, most important scene of the film. Phillips is calling out the fact that he was not cut out for the field, which is absolutely true, by the way. And I love that we don't make an illusion of like he doesn't need it all. Like no, he really needs it. he's gonna be killed out there. He can't even get out of barbed wire. And I just love that the fact that
it's like a more realistic Mulan.
Yeah, sure. It's the fact that the message of the movie is we demonstrate in one of the most gobsmackingly perfect moments for his character of. We toss a dummy grenade. We don't know. Like we can assume it's a dummy grenade because he's not going to blow up his own men. So he tosses a grenade, and the idea is like, oh no, someone's infiltrated the camp. Flee! In this case, Steve Rogers. That grenade is right close to Peggy Carter. Steve Rogers jumps on the grenade to save Peggy and the men. Mm-hmm. And it's just like that utter moment. This proves everything in one simple bit. Why Ernstkind is right, and Phillips is expecting the bully to get the thing and jump on the grenade. Did not happen at all. And the whole point of this is like we should reward that that spirit. We should reward someone who give him a chance, give him the opportunity, which we have available, versus the rank and file bully who's not going to be special at all. With this is a guy who's earned it, who deserves it.
It's almost like it's a foreshadow to something that's going to happen like 12 years later in the MCU.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that weird? You
Sure,
know, the
yeah.
whole like, oh, let's give the super soldier serum to someone who's just got the brawn.
Right.
All right,
But
anyways.
that's what I'm saying, though. I think about it is with that, though, Tiki. I love that we ultimately give Steve Rogers this serum not out of PR, not of like, it's like we're going to give the little guy the serum so we look like
Oh,
great
yeah, totally,
guys.
totally.
It's not a
Yeah.
PR thing. It's an honest admission and respect of what we want a soldier and America to be about. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's
Nailed
still
it.
skinny.
All right, so Romello makes a point about how Spider-Man and Steve Rogers should have interacted more. I completely, full-heartedly agree.
Well, I told you, when I think Captain America, outside of him saying the phrase, I always think about this wonderful Spider-Man crossover. Like they're eating hot dogs on a roof, just kind of talking about like Uncle Ben and stuff. And it was a really lovely little crossover. Like
Dragon,
Uncle Ben
the
was
whole Brooklyn Queens thing is a great little crossover moment, but other than that, we barely get anything between Spidey and Steve, and I think that's really frustrating.
I got another 10 years later thing that kind of got me with that reference, Sticky.
Yeah.
So Erskine, he's from Queens. It was just kind of this moment of like another friend who's also very science minded, you know, kind of with Spider-Man. Oh, it's kind of like a little thing like, oh. So when he hears Spider-Man say Queens, that's what brings, that might be what brings a smile.
I'm not going to shit all over the MCU Spider-Man again, but like, I really don't like how they made him just Iron Man Jr. And I feel like if Steve Rogers would have been more the guy that took him under his wing, I feel like he would have been more in line with like the classic Spider-Man, but I don't know.
Look, I agree.
Iron Man Jr., so that's what we're going with.
I wanted more Cap and Spider-Man interaction. I am very pleased though that we did get Cap's presence in Homecoming to at least represent both sides of it a little bit, you know. So I mean, I don't know. You're not wrong. We could have used more of it. Anyway.
I mean, I obviously know that I'm like rewriting the entire like Spider-Man and the MCU thing by saying this, but like, I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting what if. What if Steve Rogers took Spider-Man under his wing instead of Tony Stark?
I'd like to see that. I would.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that'll be an episode. Speaking of which,
I mean, probably not the first season, but second season.
Yeah,
right. We don't know what they're going to do in the second season, man. Let's do it. Okay, so. Dr. Erskine,
I didn't even mean to make a what if reference, but there you go.
We got to talk some Tucci, man.
Talking Tucci, that should be a podcast.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. I want that. So,
hey, we can make it happen. We can will it into existence.
Okay, so Stanley Tucci is wonderful in this film, and you know something special, something funny about Tucci in this movie. A big reason he said yes is that he's always wanted to do a German accent.
Yeah, that's funny.
In a role. That's the main reason he did it.
I mean, honestly, he's kind of unrecognizable because when I think Stanley Tucci, I think of like, you know, the Jeffrey Katzenberg Stanley Tucci that we have in our heads. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I'm always thinking of Frank from The Terminal.
Yeah, I hate to say it, as much as I rag on The Terminal, that is a pretty classic Tucci performance.
Frank Dixon in The Terminal is such a great Tucci, one of my favorite Tucci roles. We don't have time to go down that rabbit hole, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve Rogers, he's offered, he's given a chance, and his ambition is rewarded, and it's all thanks to this man. It's all thanks to Erskine.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I think the scene that really set the tone for them, the scenes will always be ingrained in my mind when I think of these two. It's that, so you want to kill some Nazis, do you? He says, I don't want to kill
that scene's so fucking good.
I know. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
I love the whole, like, is this a test? And I love Tucci's, like, yes. I love how serious he is with that one word. So good, Dragon. That moment really sang for me on a rewatch.
I absolutely agree. And here's the really cool thing about Erskine. So Erskine is very Yinsen-like in that in the parallel yet again to Iron Man, Steve Rogers was obviously a very big intertwining arc in the entirety of the MCU. These two movies are very much they're always in each other's orbits for various reasons, and I love that both Yinsen and Erskine are just these great supporting characters that change their respective heroes' lives, and them being in the mentor role, and also gives them like
they really are again with the mirror images. They really are mirror images of each other. They really are.
I know. I would love to see and they both tragically die too. It would have been great to see them have an interaction somewhere, Be
Well, I don't
impossible,
think
but
that's going to happen given
I
the
know.
generation gap, but
That's what I'm saying. I know it's impossible, but as a lovely, at least, yeah. Anyway, so I mean, the schnapps scene, for example, is this idea of where we have we learn we learn Erskine's backstory, that he was an ex-Nazi scientist, by not by his own choice. He was kind of recruited, stuck into it, forced to create a super soldier, and post Red Skull, he sees the value of the human element versus power and science, which is like the empirical stuff. You need to factor in the human element, which brings about the most important kind of element of the movie, which is remain a good man. A good man will be a good soldier, versus like a bad man is going to be a worse man.
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk about the origin scene. So the origin scene is, of course, very iconic. I love how in the movie we zhuzhed it up, because originally it's like, okay, so we take Skinny Steve Rogers, like a page or two of an origin. Take Skinny Steve Rogers. We inject him like one time.
It's about as straightforward as the Hulk origin of like, hey, we blasted him with some radiation. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, we gave him the super soldier serum with the Vita Ray chamber.
Uh-huh.
Now, my headcanon, by the way, is the Vita Ray chamber is to prevent another Red Skull from happening. Because you can look, remember, the Red Skulls got injected with, and they turned to the Red Skulls. Like, okay, they say the Vita Rays essentially spread it through the body. At least that's the implication. Like it helps solidify the process. So I'm assuming that's why we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We have that was penicillin. Like I'm sorry, we have like the subversion of the shot too. Like he gets injection in the arm. Like that wasn't so bad. That was penicillin.
Right.
It's really clever, like really clever sequence. Just this whole I just love just all the setups of Act One pay off here, and kind of as we round off Act One with like Howard Stark's revealed, the guy who couldn't get that flying car working. That's the guy who's going to do this to me. And then Erskine didn't leave me as much schnapps as he should have. This is the guy overseeing the procedure. And of course, now Peggy Carr is concerned. Now she cares about him. Everything pays off.
And that all culminates in the big moment, Dragon. The big moment.
Yep, and I love that chamber actually does everything you see it do in the movie. Like it does retract and everything, and like it's really cool. So yeah, so we make Skinny Steve Rogers into Steve Rogers, Captain America. We give him the super soldier serum. It goes well. The first and debatably only success of the super soldier.
Well, I mean, it goes well, seeming. I mean, but my favorite part of this whole scene is where it seems like it's going wrong, and Steve Rogers screams over the other end like, "No, I can do this!" Oh, good. Quintessential Captain America. Quintessential Captain America.
And again, you don't have that without Joe Johnston.
Absolutely.
Very key. So then the thing that really gets me, like, oh my god, the death of Erskine. I love that we legitimize. Of course, Classy always dies. That's why we don't have any more serum. But it's just the fact that we legitimize the stupid Heil Hitler thing from the 1990 Captain America, where he just like randomly shoots him. But we made it just dramatic and awesome here, where we just it utterly wounds me when we shoot Erskine, steal the serum, and it leads to this unequivocally kind of Joe Johnston Rocketeer pursuit after like the last. Erskine Tucci can't even speak. He's pointing to his chest in remembrance of the schnapps talk of like, stay
oh my god,
man.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god,
yeah.
It just gets me in the feels, and it energizes. It's like the moment. It's like not to the same, debatably to the same level, but it's almost like the moment in Spider-Man where Uncle Ben dies and you see.
Oh,
Peter
it's very similar.
I
mean, maybe not to the same level. You're right, but it is similar.
Because that's in the tomes of cinema, that Uncle Ben death. But
Peter.
Oh my god, that's what I'm saying. Don't get me distracted with that right now. But yes,
all right.
So he's pursuing Kruger. Kruger's the Hydra guy who shot Erskine. Anyway, so we have like that Rocketeer pursuit where he's discovering
20 years since that movie came out. By the way, just point that out. 20 years, Dragon. 20 years.
Since Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, next year. Yeah.
Next year. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, crazy.
Anyways, go ahead.
Anyway, so we just have a lot of great Johnston kind of stylistic things here where he's discovering his strength mid-run, and we have like the awesome bit again, the arc of the shield. I love the arc of the shield. We start with the trash can lid. We then go to the Lucky Star cab, which is a star on it. We're getting there. then we're gonna get some action again. We're gonna keep building on it. So of course, one of the great, this is the most Joe Johnston bit in the whole movie. I don't mean to keep saying Johnston, but just go with me on this. The hostage, get kids taken hostage and thrown in the water, but it's okay. I can swim. Go after him.
Oh my god, I love that so much. Oh
right?
God.
It's like, yeah, we
that
never addressed that.
Like, that is like quintessential, like, again, what we were talking about, where it's like, it's not MCU, it's like Marvel Comics, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love that.
Also, by the way, this poor actor, when we're doing like the submarine thing, Kruger, the guy playing the Hydra guy, he's aquaphobic, so I feel so bad for him in this scene. They can only do it so many times because he has a very crippling fear of water. Anyway, so huge, imposing ending, I felt, of Act 1, where, okay, so we show how dedicated Hydra is, as we've shown how dedicated Steve Rogers is, but they're going to die for their cause. Like, they break the cyanide capsule in the teeth.
Yeah.
Cut off one head, two more in its place. Hail Hydra! Just like dies, and of course the super soldier vial breaks, which puts all the pressure on. It's the big moment of like Steve Rogers is the last of the super soldiers, pre Isaiah Bradley. Let's just go, the last of the super soldiers, the only success story. That's a big, oh my god, Act 1, boom. That brings us to Act 2, where Cap kind of suits up, let's say.
All right, so Dragon, I don't know, like, Star Spangled Man with a Plan still might be my all-time favorite scene in the entirety of the MCU. It fits my sensibilities to a T, Dragon. It is everything that I love and that I geek out about, just personified into one little sequence, Dragon. I love World War II propaganda. I love I love cheesy stuff like this. I love World's Fair type stuff. It's all rolled up so well. I love Alan Menken. It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah, the grenade scene's the most important scene in the movie, but this is the best sequence of the movie, hands down.
Absolutely.
I just love I love the cool meta idea of essentially canonizing real life Cap stuff with the movie Cap stuff, where he's the idea that the Cap comics can actually have, because it makes sense. Yeah, if we had Captain America, it's World War, it's still around the same era he was created. Like, why not have Captain America comics?
It totally legitimizes the costume and the moniker for sure.
Yeah, and we have the movie serials.
We do that in the most, like, it's a really clever storytelling device, but we do it in like the most fun way possible.
And it also foreshadows so much, too. Like, when I think about it, when we do the movie serials, he's walking with a kind of an analog for the Howling Commandos, which get actualized a little later,
Sure.
So like that, of course, see the whole punching Hitler in the stage show. And also, it's a great passage of time thing. We're showing, okay, so, because again, this movie starts in like 1942, ends in roughly 45. So a lot of time passes in this movie. So there's like this and the other montage kind of helps do that. And I love that the irony here being, he wants to be of service. He wants to be proactive versus a lab rat in Alamogordo, New Mexico. So what happens is, he's just kind of, he scoffed at to Bucky, like, I don't want to be Timmy with the red wagon, this, doing the, getting scrap metal recycled for the war effort. What is he doing? He's the guy saying to the little Timmy to recycle for the war effort. I think that's genius. He's selling war bonds and recycling metal, and of course,
forget to buy your war bonds, kids.
But it puts a bullet in the barrel of your best guy's gun.
Exactly.
So the USO suit was the most anticipated thing I had going. I heard like a rumor of this scene. I had no idea what it was going to look like or anything. I heard like we're going to put him in the costume. It's the classic costume at some point in the movie. I had no idea what they meant or how it was going to look. And my God, knowing it was going to be seeing this sequence, like, oh my god, this is better than I could have ever imagined. Like, the suit itself is perfect and retro and right out of the page. I love the motorcycle gag at the end of the song, where he's like, literally, he's lifting. They don't even have to do an effect. He's lifting the motorcycle with 3 girls on it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a lightweight motorcycle or something like that. It's just.
And all of this, just, the government kind of lying to, like, Senator Brandt essentially kind of leading them on of like, hey, play ball with us and we'll make you a captain in real life. and all really turns him into a circus monkey as he draws in the movie. He's a circus, he's a performing circus monkey. Then brings us to something that I think this gets under. I don't know if this necessarily gets underrated or not, but I love this scene after Starsman. I love the Cap rescuing the 107th Infantry.
I mean, Dragon, this is pretty much the closest this movie has to a No Man's Land scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like No Man's Land meets Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's pretty much what
totally.
It is. It's like this sequence is the most serial-like sequence in the entire film. This scene,
and I will honestly make a bold statement and say that this is probably the last great sequence we get until the ending.
And the exceptional, surely the last exceptional sequence we really get, sure. So yeah, this is of course, things get real, because Cap's kind of lamenting. Peggy's trying to give him a pep talk to kind of you were meant for more than this. And Bucky and his unit have been captured, 107th, which by the way is Steve Rogers' father's unit, which he wanted to be in, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so we just have this great sequence. I love visually what I want to hit here is I love the design of Cap with the helmet and the jacket over the USO suit, and then the progression of taking the icon and the soldier and melding them together to become a superhero. I love that idea, and I love how we then kind of make that practical with the eventual Cap suit. So I love the progression there. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's all great. So of course, long story short, the most movie serial vibe of the whole movie is like, fellas, we just goes in almost like Indiana Jones, like, hello, fellas, and he just throws him out of the back of the car. He got gags like that, and we just have this mythic rescue of the men, the POWs. Is don't worry, guys, I've knocked out Adolf Hitler like 200 times, and they're like, wait, what? So then we have our fill-in for Adolf Hitler with the Red Skull. They have their first. I love that he and the Red Skull have 3 scenes in the entire movie, and they're really big scenes. They're really good scenes, particularly the first 2. This scene where Red Skull essentially unmasked himself, and we see, oh my god, how cool was the reveal of the Red Skulls when he took that face off?
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So yeah, I love like the first time, like, Captain, I'm a great fan of your films. Like he's mocking him right off the gate, like, oh yeah, I watched your films for the entertainment value. So we have that epic catwalk shot. Everything comes together for like the meeting of our 2 greats who are very much the arch nemesis of each other. Like the minute he punches into that metal triangular shield, okay, he's on the level with Cap in terms of strength. This guy's a problem. This is not good. And again, Bucky has like some great 40s comedy when they're dynamic, when he saves Bucky. The whole like, you don't have one of those, do you, with the red face? You don't have a red face like him, do you? Because you look really different than the last time I saw you. So we're basically tee up the dynamic, and we get like the money shot of after Cap saves everyone. They're walking back to the camp, and Colonel Phillips now respects Steve Rogers now. So it's a bang up sequence. Really, it's the most 40 sequence of the entire film. It's great. And look, I don't want to spend time on the Howling Commandos montage. I mean, originally they shot.
I mean, it's really well done. And honestly, I feel like people give this movie too much shit for having it's nothing but montages, and I'm like, no, it's a lot of character development is what it is. Yeah,
I want to admit, I think I kind of fit into that back in the day, but I've reassessed that.
Drake, you know me in terms of my sensibilities, like one of the things that I kind of go to kind of like short-term action sequences when I just kind of like start to lose interest is like, and they fight. And honestly, a montage kind of breezes through the boredom with me there. It's like I'm desensitized to action in a lot of ways, unless you're doing something really creative with it, obviously. Like, if you're doing like a Tenet or something like that, that's a different story when it comes to action. But you know what I mean, just generally speaking. With this movie, like it's like 80% character work, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I honestly wish more MCU movies would be more character focused.
So here's the thing, though. Okay, so originally there were scenes versus they had to edit down to a montage because they wanted to do like an under 2-hour movie, which essentially is what they did. I mean, it's 2 hours plus the credits. It's making it with the credits is 2 hours.
Yeah.
So the fact is they edited down. So I get that. Now, at the end of the day, always it's still been. I know it's a cool montage, and it is. And I've grown to appreciate it a lot more years later, because basically it's like a compilation of Jack Kirby action money shots from the Captain America books, which I like. I do. And also it helps with the passage of the passage of time, the only thing I've always felt suffered is that the Howling Commandos are really cool characters, which we've set up when we introduced them, like with Dum Dum Dugan, Jim Morita, Montgomery Fallsworth, and Jacques Dunier, like the guys on the team. And again, it's like they're so cool. I wanted to spend more time with them and see those missions play out because, emphasis on, I was having such a good time with everything up to that point. It's like, I could this movie could be longer. I wouldn't mind it, because these are fun missions, it seems. But then again, practically, you have to cut it down. So I don't fault it at all for doing so. However, we do get around this time, we get the BS scene in the movie, though. So again, as much as I love this movie, there are like the whole BS misunderstanding with Peggy Carter, the whole basically as great as this to introduce the vibranium shield, we have like a really painful gag associated with it. We're like, Peggy Carter's mad at Steve Rogers, so she shoots him a couple times, but he hides behind the shield, so he's safe.
Really? You have a problem with that?
I mean, the lead up to that is what bothers me. I'm saying that's kind of the reminder of that lead up.
Like I like that beat is like kind of like a romantic comedy kind of beat.
I mean, I'll accept that, but I'm saying the lead up is it's a reminder of the lead up, which I did not like. The whole like, oh, she's not giving him any benefit of the doubt of like this woman came on to him. I mean, like, oh, it looks like you found a dance part. Oh, come on, that's unfair.
Yeah, I heard.
Like, give him they saved like a whole battalion of men. Give him a break. Come on. Anyway, yes. Anyway, we get the functional cap suit and the vibranium shield, which is awesome. Do you know why we changed it from a triangular shield? By the way.
I'm assuming aesthetics mostly.
No, there was like a lawsuit. It was like a Captain Marvel situation almost, where there was a character called the Shield who was all triangular. It was a really cheesy character. I'm pretty sure his whole shtick was that he wore like a triangular shield costume, if I recall.
Oh no!
So this was an Archie comics.
Costume was literally the Shield.
Tiki, I can't say it for certain. I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Though it looked really cheesy. He wore like the triangular shield, almost like a sandwich board or something. It was really dumb looking.
Oh wow!
That's what I'm saying. So that was like the reason they had to change it from the triangular shield to the circular one. And it worked for them. I have no compunction. Now they can do like the whole frisbee and the whole shield toss, like during they did that montage, which is awesome. But it's just like little. I got things I'm not going to bore you with. But the genesis of Captain America in places is really interesting, like how random it can be.
For sure.
Okay. All right, so let's see. So the big thing we got to hit in Act 2, kind of our downbeat of Act 2, like the low of lows that gets us there, is we of course, in our story, we have to lose Bucky. Otherwise, Winter Soldier's not going to be as compelling as it is.
Bucky Barnes! He died, and he's never, ever, ever coming back, ever! Remember that? Remember that running joke?
Yes.
Oh God, that's a fucking callback, man.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
See, that's a callback I wish could stay dead, but we don't. Anyway, so
you're never going to see Bucky Barnes again. I just want to double emphasize that he is in fact dead. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I've always been iffy on how we kill off, in quotes, how we kill off Bucky here, this scene. Because, I mean, look, traditionally Bucky, in quotes, dies on the rocket with Cap. And in the comics, that's how it was like Bucky and Cap were on the rocket, and Bucky fell off first, and then Cap, and they both fell on the ice, and eventually, they're found both individually as the Winter Soldier and then Captain America with the Avengers. That's how it goes. And basically, that would have been Act 3 if they went right off the page, which, I mean, I'm sure... I don't know how tricky it would have been to pull off. The whole suspend animation thing's always been kind of a buy scientifically, but let's not dwell on that. My point is, what we have in the movie, though, is the train set piece is really cool as a train set piece. And because this is new, this is different. Like, you don't quite see it coming. Like, you don't expect Bucky to get killed off in this scene because I'm waiting for Act 3 for him to kind of be killed, in quotes, killed off. So, I mean, in that respect, I do like it, and the idea is to help facilitate his survival with Winter Soldier, like how you can buy it more. Okay, well, it would have been convenient if he and Steve both suffered the same exact fate, but him falling and possibly surviving. Plus, earlier we teed up, Zola did some experiments on, which is why he survived the fall. That's the whole like he pre-programmed him for the Winter Soldier program and everything. So that was all set up so nicely. However, the thing that every time I watch it, even 10 years later, the way Bucky falls does not age well.
No, it does. It's not one of the better effects. It's not the Skinny Steve effect by a long shot.
And that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, I'm compelled with the loss that Steve and like the Bucky saves him in his last moment. Like he holds the
Obviously,
shield
Winter
and he,
Soldier is going to contextualize this scene a hell of a lot.
yeah.
But
Like for example,
yeah,
it plays the scene from Bucky's fall down, which is very engaging. You know, it's like that's great. But
right,
just like
right.
did the RoboCop fall? Like no, it's like it's like come on, and that's what I'm feeling the loss though, and that's why I'm iffy on it. Regardless, I love the beat though. It ends Act 2 where I guess it kind of warms us up that in Act 3, but regardless of the transition, I love like it's especially sad that Steve and Bucky, as they bond through the film, when Steve's in mourning, he's mourning in the now bombed out bar that the two of them had that really nice scene where like, am I going to follow Captain America in the battle? No, I'm going to follow the skinny kid from Brooklyn. It was crazy enough to enlist. Like this, when they forged the Howling Commandos and everything in that bar, that's where Steve goes, but he can't get drunk. You know, that was a great that was a great kind of poignant kind of moment of mourning Bucky. So that really stuck with me. All right, so Act 3.
Okay, really quick. Jedi Knight asks, who did war scenes better, this or Wonder Woman? I think this is a way better movie than Wonder Woman, but I honestly think the war scenes in Wonder Woman were a little better.
Now, mind you, they're two different wars, very different wars.
Uh-huh.
You have like trench warfare, which makes No Man's Land really pop in Wonder Woman.
Sure.
So that's the difference. And also, you have Hydra weapons, which either add or detract from the experience, depending on how you feel about them. With the whole like, we're shooting blue energy at everybody, which I mean, I'll take it.
Right, exactly.
People. And the idea is like we have souped up tanks. They're not realistic tanks at all, but they're giant tanks, like Kirby tanks. So yeah. I mean, my answer is probably Cap, but Wonder Woman gets World War I very right, though, in my opinion.
All right. So yeah, let's just go right into Act 3.
Yeah, not a complicated act. So until the very end, obviously. Okay. So Armin Zola. So just in general, let's talk about your favorites. One of your favorite scenes in the movie, Tiki, the steak scene.
Oh yeah. I mean, Zola just in general is great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I love the metaphor that he creates with the steak scene. You know, it's a great piece of writing.
Yeah, just the whole like this your best friend interrogation. Like I brought you like this is a choice cut, doctor. You don't get this kind of meat out here.
Right.
What is in it? Cow. it's really great.
So yeah, a lot of fun there for sure.
And the Toby Jones, great. He's kind of like the Howard Stark or Bucky, depending on your point of view for the Red Skull, which is it just doesn't treat him right at all. Though he's clearly intimidated by the Red Skull throughout the duration of the film, and he's did all this for the scientific challenge of it all. He didn't expect to. I didn't want to dwarf Hitler. I just wanted to build some cool stuff. I didn't expect all this.
Right.
And we have some great nods. Like we built up the whole like he has like a blueprint for the Zola design, where it's like a giant TV screen. Like some fun nods like that. He's like on a big old video screen at the top of the movie, like, oh, we know what's going to happen to him, Winter Soldier,
Of course, yeah.
And again, a fun fact, creepy fact, actually. So a lot of the designs for the Hydra tech in this movie, particularly, like, remember the thing Red Skull escapes on the giant, like, kind of gyro-looking thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tree flugel. Now, a tree flugel was an abandoned Nazi concept. And actual Nazis were going to build this thing, but then they lost the war. They were going to build this.
No, that's trippy.
I know. It's anyway. Okay. So, so basically we pocket Zola away for even better stuff in Winter Soldier, but he is great here too. No, I'm never going to knock Toby Jones. He's great. So, Cap, thanks to the information we got from Zola, the Cap has a location on the Red Skull so they can assault the Hydra base in the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
I love how in Act 3, Steve Rogers is honoring Erskine's words about, stay a good man and basically stay skinny Steve Rogers, where, think about it, he's using all of this to undermine the Red Skull and kind of it motivates the plan, where he's doing stuff skinny Steve Rogers in Act 1 absolutely would have done, where, again, he's calling back all the lines. I could do this all day. What's so special about him? One of the great exchange, I think the best exchange between him and the Red Skull is, what makes you so special, or what made you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. It's like, yeah, that's great. And the fact that his whole approach to it, like he he just stands up to the bully, riding his awesome tricked out motorcycle. But he goes to the front door like the way you'd face a bully. He's not running away, and the way Skinny Steve Rogers would approach it. I love it. It's coating the whole act there. Anyway, so we have your favorite moment of the movie with Phillips.
I'm not kissing you.
Yep, we have that great moment of riding in Red Skull's. That's a practical parade. They built that car, man.
I mean, Dragon, it's not like Star Spangled Man for Plan and the grenade scene are better than this, but it's certainly the most quotable moment in the movie.
That's what I meant. You quote the whole.
I'm not kissing you. I really do think it's like maybe the most quintessential Tommy Lee Jones line he's ever delivered in his career.
And again, connected to like a nice goodbye with Peggy Carter, like the last, kind of goodbye they're going to have before in person before, we have like the.
Yeah, but I love how that's just like cemented with like one of the most memorable comedic beats of the whole MCU. It's kind of trippy how that worked out so beautifully well.
It's great that we gave him stuff to do during this scene too. Like Peggy Carter, kind of saves him from the flamethrower guy, and then Phillips is driving Red Skulls.
Totally. No, Phillips is like I love how that's the thing with Phillips, Dragon, is that they could have very easily made him just a kind of like a stock drill sergeant type character.
Yeah.
But he really does have a lot of agency in the story, and he gets stuff to do throughout the story. So that's why I like him so much.
Like we didn't just throw Tommy Lee Jones in there for name recognition. He actually does stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about the bomber climax. We're on the giant wing, the wing ship here. This is probably this is the problem area of a very solid film, I'd say.
I don't
overall
think it's that bad, right? I really don't. Like, I wouldn't call it. Would you really call it a problem area?
I mean, again, until we get the radio scene, yeah.
All right,
I mean, look, I want to be clear. It doesn't kill the movie. I'm just saying.
I think it's one of the weaker stretches of the movie, but I don't think it's like actively bad filmmaking or anything.
No, it's not bad. I'm saying that's what makes it. I'm saying it weakens the very strong whole, though. That's my point, though. Is that this is where things are going really solid and straightforwardly. Then we hit the bomber climax, which is like, if you think too hard about it, if you're not just enjoying the ride, getting there is like, it's
sure.
Yeah, like for example, look. It's like for example, the action sequence, which is a cool action sequence. I have nothing against the action sequence. The kamikaze bomb planes and the Hydra soldiers. That was, by the way, done on the fly, if I recall. They really did that whole sequence on the fly. It's a neat sequence, but it kind of shoehorned. It's kind of shoehorned in the climax, where it should be okay. Gets on the bomber and he fights the Red Skull. No, he gets on the bomber. He goes for a wild ride on these bomber plane things, and then he gets back on the ship to fight the Red Skull. And then when you think, basically because of that sequence, all the logic then begins to come into question, like, wait a minute, if there are bomber planes on the ship, why can't he just fly one of them out when he directs the plane into the river, into the water,
Yeah. I don't want to have that. I'm usually the plot hole guy, but for this, I'm just kind of like, I am kind of just along for the ride. I don't know.
Look, I will excuse it. Sure, don't get me wrong. I'm having a great time with the whole movie. I'm just saying this is the thing that bugs me when the movie comes out. This is like every critic's pointing to. I don't know if that bomb scene makes any sense. Like, darn it, they're kind of right. Darn it.
No, I hear you. Like, I know that they're right. I don't really like Dragon. It's like I will give it like in terms of the we don't care scale. Yeah. I'll give it like a I don't care. It's not really an enthusiastic we don't care. It's more so like, yeah, I know it's kind of dumb, but we're getting to a really good ending with the so anyway.
And the performance absolutely kind of distracts you from that, which is great. Because again, as I'm saying, if you think about it in retrospect, 10 years later, it's like, I don't know if it makes sense, but I love the performance though. It's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, we have the show. What's awesome? This showdown with the Red Skull. There's a Funko of this scene, and I love that. There's a Funko of him and the Red Skull with the cosmic cube in the middle during this fight.
Uh-huh.
So I've seen the future, Captain. There are no flags, and because Cap has like the great perennial American line, "Not in my future." So we have like the big moment that we now know exactly what happens, where Red Skull he has a very Raiders of the Lost Ark fate here, where he the hull is damaged. He grabs the cube and it portals him away, and we now know where exactly he was portaled.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we have the very emotional scene that distracts from some of our plot holes in
Yeah, I
in
mean
the
the
bottom.
goodbye, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the goodbye is so good that I kind of just have to give a begrudging, like, yeah, I don't care. However, we gotta get to it, we gotta get
Yeah.
to
I
it.
mean, again, it gives us a very, very solid. It's the heart of Agent Carter season 1. This scene,
Of
it's
course,
very.
yeah.
Scene had some great
I mean, I
stake
would
to it.
wager to say it's the heart of Steve Rogers' whole story arc throughout the entirety of the Infinity
I
Saga
I
Dragon.
agree unequivocally. Yes,
Yeah,
it's the heartbreaking coded goodbye. It's
yeah.
Haley Atwell. By the way, this was Haley Atwell's audition scene. Like she had the room in tears.
Not
This is the
surprised.
scene.
It would be a good audition scene.
This is why she got the role. She had the whole room in tears, like just going with her, like with
Nice.
the scene. Okay, so powerful scene because Steve confronts her with. Here's the thing, kind of hit me on the rewatch. Steve Rogers literally uses what she said to him about Bucky's passing to comfort her in this scene, which really hit me. Is that
Uh-huh.
Bucky's loss essentially was his choice to protect you. So essentially, he kind of pulls that here, like this is my choice, Peggy. So Steve, at the end of the day, with his arc in the movies, that Steve achieves his dream of giving his all for a noble cause, and basically we get this whole scene is like Cap's Casablanca moment with Peggy Carter. That's the best analogy I could use. It's like it's the Casablanca. Our problems don't amount to a hill of beans. You got to get on that. In this case, I got to get on that plane.
Yeah.
And just the
Yeah, it's
tragedy
great.
of one man's sacrifice to preserve the American dreams. Powerful, and then we have the powerful note that I'm sure your father was weeping at, as I was probably just the powerful note of the kid with the Captain America trash can lid.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean that to me is just like, Dragon. The term baby boomers has become such a stigma. It's like, you know what though, but like that is the generation that kind of birthed Captain America in terms of fandom. So let's show some respect in that regard.
Yeah, it's just this essentially is the ending of the movie. Then we get like it would have ended on a bittersweet note, but then we plus it with the real ending of the movie. I just love that we have two really powerful endings for this film.
Yeah, yeah. But honestly, Dragon, I really think I don't know. I still think maybe the ending of Guardians Volume 2 might be my favorite ending in the MCU. Maybe, but this comes pretty damn close. It's pretty neck and neck.
Yeah, I mean they're both
like Yondu's funeral is just it's hard, like that song that they play at the end of Guardians, just it's hard to say no to that. It really is, but
that Silvestri music though, Tiki, and that kid,
and
like
the last line is really what I love about it.
Yep. But my God, the arc of that shield, man. Again, we start off with him with the trash can shield. We end after the vibranium shield. It goes back to the kids imitating Captain America. It's like the cycle continues, and that shield's gonna come back, and that's great. So then we have the awakening in Times Square scene, which is oh my God, it's like it's such a they were contemplating doing this movie half in the present in the earliest iterations of developing the movie. It was going to be half in the present day, half in the past.
Oh, I'm so glad they did go that route. Oh my God.
So this worked out so perfectly.
It's such a good note for the movie to end on, and also a great note of like, okay, we got Avengers next. All right.
This film's all about rewarding Steve Rogers for remaining a good man. And that's why we end the note on like him being alive, on him like being found and thawing after 70 years. If the Tesseract's pulled out of the water for Avengers, Cap has to follow. So that's how we have to end the movie. Like they're linked at the hip, those two. It's we get the money shot of the movie. It's a great call. It's just the perfect call. Like him running out in the Times Square, the heart of New York. We have like the shadiness of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I love that he sees through it in an instant of like, wait, I was at that game. This is a lie. And just breaks out of the room. And then we have
right,
Nick
exactly.
Fury.
Yeah.
And then reflecting Iron Man yet again, Nick Fury gives him the welcome to a bigger universe moment of just like, like kind of the welcome to the Marvel universe, essentially. And just there's the grand sweepingness of, now it's time for the Avengers. Cap has entered the party. This whole scene, by the way, I'm convinced is a pull from the animated Avengers movie, Ultimate Avengers, which is pretty much Nick Fury trying to greet Captain America after like he has a kind of a jumpy wake up. And of course, we have that last poignant line in the movie, as you said, Tiki. Just I had a date in one line. The life Steve Rogers lost in exchange for a whole new adventure.
4 words, 4 simple words.
Yes, I had a date.
Great. All right. So wow, there we go, Dragon. There we go. let's see. We just close out on final thoughts, right?
Yeah, final thoughts. Unless you haven't seen any comments you want to highlight.
No, no, no. Not that I can see. Not that I can see.
Okay, well, you start us off then.
Okay. Yeah. So final thoughts. I really do think this is up there in my upper echelon of MCU movies. Like, I totally acknowledge that it's got a couple storytelling issues. I totally acknowledge that it's not the cleanest story of the MCU films, but what it lacks for in a solid story, it really like more than makes up for in characterization and style. I really wish that more MCU films would be character based more than action based, because the character work on this is just so rich for me. And like I said, Dragon, I'm sorry. It's like world weary Captain America is fine, but like I find this starry-eyed idealist Captain America to be so much more, like, I don't want to say likable, because obviously I'm not saying that the world weary Winter Soldier Captain America is unlikable.
Well, Tiki, he's not world. You keep saying world weary. He's not world weary until Infinity War. Okay, he's not.
But I don't know. Do you think Chris Evans will play Captain America? He'll be. I don't think he's going to be the main character in Captain America 4. No, I'm sure.
If we're lucky, he'll show up in like an over kind of a perfunctory role as like a cameo. If we're lucky, but I doubt it. I wouldn't count on it, kid.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just overall just a very, very solid movie across the board.
Yeah. Final thoughts from me. If Iron Man is the heart of the MCU, this film is the soul of the MCU. 10 years ago, I don't think I fully appreciated how special this film was. 10 years later, after the journey I've went on with Steve Rogers and Captain America, it just like it's starting to get me as emotional as when I watched Winter Soldier. So it's kind of either I'm getting softer or these movies just are holding up even better 10 years later. In light of Endgame and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this movie is more relevant than it's ever been. Again, with the whole John Walker and the whole Star Spangled Man callbacks, and obviously, the Isaiah Bradley to the Steve Rogers rescue of the 107th. There's a lot still being pulled in mind from this film. We revitalized a piece with this movie. We revitalized a piece of old Hollywood to make, on paper, could very possibly have been a by the numbers superhero film, of the bunch. It really could have been like Captain America, it's like, and we turned it into something meaningful, that goes to show the MCU isn't built just on the effects of technology and gods and green monsters, but the core Marvel philosophy of you're going to care about the people under the mask and costumes. This film's a beautiful tribute to Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. The third act's iffy, but doesn't tarnish the experience of this glorious shield of a movie at all. 10 years later, I'd like to see, I'd like to paraphrase Cap's biggest fan. After Phil Coulson, I'd like to paraphrase Phil Coulson for a second here about movies like this. The times we face, especially these days, sometimes we need a throwback. Sometimes people might need a little old fashioned, and that's this movie.
All right. Well said. Well said. Okay. So big thanks to Atomic Beast, Romello Malone, and Jedi Knight for joining us in the comments. Really appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I do agree that I do wish we could get a midquel with more of this time period, Jedi, and I do. I would like that. You guys, like honestly, I like whenever people tune in during holidays, I'm genuinely really humbled, so I really appreciate it. Let's see. Do you guys think Spider-Man will be the new face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? No, I don't. Just because I think the rights issues are so iffy. Right now, I think it's too early to tell who the new face of the MCU is going to be. I would say with all the multiverse stuff going on, maybe Doctor Strange might be a safe bet. I don't know. What do you think, Dragon?
Yeah, I mean, my personal answer would be I'd like it to be Sam Wilson, but I don't think I don't know if that's necessarily
that's another possibility for sure.
I want it to be Sam Wilson, but Doctor Strange is a very good point, though. T. Here's the thing: ultimately, I think how Far From Home goes is going to be really telling, both for kind of the direction of Doctor Strange and for Spider-Man. Because I mean, if they ever do the gutsy, if Marvel just like, sorry, more accurately, if Disney just says, you know what, we're tired of dealing with this thing, we're just going to buy Sony, we're going to buy Spider-Man rights from Sony and just give them as much money as they want. I could see Spider-Man being the face, but it really depends on how this next Spider-Man movie goes, just on many, just to see how we deal with things. If we are ushering Miles Morales in instead of Peter Parker, which I don't know how solid how possible that is. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Doctor Strange is a good guess, though. Tiki. Doctor Strange or Sam Wilson would be my immediate suggestions. Yeah.
All right, and executive, you kind of came in like right at the tail end, but happy to have you on board. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining us this 4th of July. Hope you had a really good holiday. And of course, as always, we will be back on Thursdays to cover the last 2 episodes of Loki, and we're going to be back Mondays, generally speaking, to cover Rick and Morty. That along with a lot of other stuff. Christmas in July coming up, so stay tuned for that. There's going to be a WandaVision pitch, WandaVision Christmas special. Gonna have fun with that. All right. Anyways, guys, have a good night. See y'all later.
I can do this all day.
I'm not kissing you.